You are Navigator Caliph, third eye opening for the 10,000th time, and something is wrong. The warp does not scream today. It does not howl with the voices of the neverborn. It does not twist and rage with the fury of gods made from madness. Instead, there is silence. Not the absence of sound, but something deeper. A silence that feels like pressure. Like the moment before a predator strikes. You have sailed the Imperium for 60 standard years. You have witnessed Daemon princes tear reality apart. You have seen Khorne's rage manifest as bleeding stars. But this is different. The warp currents still flow beneath your vessel, but they feel hollow, empty. Like something vast has displaced everything you once knew. Your fingers tremble against the observation throne. Cold sweat traces your spine despite the climate controls. The third eye, your gift and your curse, perceives what baseline humans cannot. Normally you see the warp's churning madness, its impossible colors, its screaming geometries of chaos. Today you see corridors, vast, geometric, wrong. They stretch infinitely in directions that should not exist, carved from substance that predates matter itself. No daemons dance in these depths. No chaos whispers promises of power. There is only architecture, ancient, patient, waiting. You try to close your third eye, but the vision persists, burning itself into your cortex like a brand that will never fade. The vox crackles. Your shipmaster's voice carries an edge you have never heard before. 3 other navigators across the sector report the same phenomenon. Warp routes that functioned for millennia now terminate in these silent corridors. Astropaths who once channeled the Emperor's light now speak in tongues no imperial linguist recognizes. They describe dreams of cities beneath oceans that never existed, of geometries that make human minds recoil, of something vast and sleeping that has begun to stir. The Administratum does not have protocols for this. The Inquisition does not have explanations. Even the Grey Knights, humanity's ultimate weapon against chaos, have gone silent on 3 separate Forge worlds attempting to investigate. If you want to witness the fall of everything you thought you understood, subscribe now. Because what comes next is not a story of heroism. It is not a tale of the Emperor's divine protection. This is the documentation of how humanity learned it was never alone in the dark. How the Imperium discovered that chaos, for all its horror, was merely the surface. A symptom of something older. Something that makes the ruinous powers look like squabbling children. Hit that like button if you are ready to descend into cosmic horror that even the warp fears. Leave a comment telling me what you think lurks beyond the reach of chaos itself. You force yourself to breathe. The shipmaster orders full stop. 300 souls aboard this vessel depend on your navigation, but you cannot plot a course through what you are seeing. The warp was always insane, always deadly, but it followed rules. Daemon logic. Emotional physics. The madness made sense if you understood its nature. This silence follows no rules you recognize. It simply is. Eternal. Inevitable. You remember your training on Terra, in the navigator houses where bloodlines are currency and mutation is privilege. Your instructors taught you to fear chaos, to resist its whispers, to never let the third eye stare too long into the abyss. They never taught you what to do when the abyss stares back with something that makes chaos look away. Your second officer bursts onto the bridge, his face pale. He is not navigator-born and cannot perceive what you see, but he carries a data slate with reports from across the sector. 12 Imperial Navy vessels lost in the last 6 hours, not destroyed. Lost. They entered the warp and never emerged. Their last transmissions speak of silence, of corridors, of crew members staring into empty space for hours before their minds simply stopped. No chaos corruption, no demonic possession. Their souls were not claimed by the warp. They were erased, overwritten, replaced with something that wears human shape but thinks in angles that fracture sanity itself. The Emperor protects. You whisper, but the words taste like ash. For 10,000 years that phrase meant something. It was shield and sword against the darkness. It was humanity's defiance against impossible odds. But today, staring into the warp's new silence, you understand a terrible truth. The Emperor protects humanity from what it can comprehend, from daemons and heretics and the known horrors of chaos. But what happens when something emerges that exists outside his light? Something so alien that even divine intervention cannot parse its existence. The Astronomicon still burns. The Emperor still sits his golden throne, but his light does not penetrate these new corridors. The Emperor reflects off their surfaces like a candle held against the void of deep space. You close your physical eyes and force the third eye to focus. One more look, one more attempt to understand what has replaced the familiar madness of chaos. The corridors stretch deeper. The Emperor perceives angles that should not connect, dimensions folded in ways that make your navigator-bred mind scream. The Emperor perceives endings thirst not a daemon, not a warp entity, something older, something that dreams. Its presence does not rage or seduce or corrupt. The Emperor simply waits, patient beyond mortal comprehension. And in that moment of perception you understand with perfect clarity why the warp went silent today. Chaos did not flee. Chaos bowed. Was something far older than the war in heaven, something that existed before the Eldar gave birth to Slanesh, something that makes the Cthulhu look like mayflies has turned its attention to this galaxy. And galaxies you now understand are very small things. To understand what is happening you must first understand what chaos truly is. Chaos is not inherently evil. It is reflection, a mirror dimension where emotions become physics and thoughts become matter. When sentient beings feel rage, corn grows stronger. When they succumb to excess, Slanesh hungers. The Chaos Gods are massive, yes, incomprehensibly powerful, but they are parasites. They depend on mortal emotion the way a flame depends on oxygen. Sentient life from the galaxy and the luminous powers with stars. They are symptoms of consciousness itself, born from the war in heaven when the old ones flooded. Galaxy with psychic races. They are 60 million years old at most, ancient by human standards, infants by the standards of what now stirs. What Navigator Keleth perceived in those silent corridors predates the warp as you understand it. Before there were emotions to reflect, before there were minds to birth daemons, there were older things, entities that did not evolve, did not emerge from collective unconsciousness. They simply existed, patient, dreaming, waiting in spaces between dimensions where reality grows thin. The Eldar have myths about them, The Eldari term translates poorly into Gothic but means something like the architects of emptiness. The Necrons have data tombs sealed with technology that predates the Callistan themselves, marked with warnings in languages even they cannot fully parse. Do not wake what sleeps beneath. Do not perceive what dreams in angles. These warnings were not metaphors. They were quarantine protocols for something the ancient Necron encountered and chose to flee rather than fight. The Inquisition's Ordo Malleus maintains a black library as Hoperden text, most detailed chaos corruption, daemon summoning, heretical rituals to be purged on sight. But there exists a deeper vault, a collection of documents so dangerous that even Inquisitor lords hesitate to access them. These texts speak of something the Imperium encountered during the Great Crusade and chose to bury rather than combat. The Emperor himself ordered entire expedition fleets scuttled, their crews mind-wiped, their data purged from all records. Official histories claim these expeditions were lost to warp storms or Xenos ambush. The truth, locked in vaults beneath Terra, speaks of ships that found planets where geometry hurt to perceive, where populations had not died but transformed into something that retained human shape while thinking in fractals that shattered sanity. When the Emperor walked among men, he understood something that even his primarchs did not fully grasp. Chaos was manageable. Terrible, yes. Corrupting and deadly. But manageable. It followed rules. Emotional logic. You could resist chaos through faith, through discipline, through understanding its nature and refusing its gifts. The Emperor built the Imperium as a fortress against chaos, but he built it on a foundation of carefully maintained ignorance about something else, something that could not be resisted because resistance required comprehension, and comprehension itself was the weapon. He taught humanity that knowledge was dangerous, that curiosity led to damnation. The Mechanicus believes this prevents tech heresy, and Ecclesiarchy believes this maintains faith. But the Emperor knew the real reason. Some knowledge destroys the knower simply by being known. On 12 Forge worlds across the Segmentum Obscure, tech priests are detecting anomalies that their instruments should not be able to register. Null pattern fields that are not blanks, not pariahs, not sisters of silence effects. These readings show reality itself developing gaps, spaces where the laws of physics apply differently, where time flows at angles to causality, where matter exists in states that require 17 spatial dimensions to describe mathematically. The Mechanicus has protocols for warp corruption. They recognize daemonic code. They purge possessed machine spirits. But these anomalies carry no warp signature, no chaos taint. They are clean, perfectly impossibly clean, as if something is rewriting reality's source code with such precision that even divine technology cannot detect the intrusion until it has already propagated. Astropaths across the Imperium begin reporting synchronized dreams. This should be impossible. Astropaths are individuals, their minds touched by the Emperor's binding. They share connection to the Astronomicon but maintain separate identities. Yet for 3 weeks now thousands of them wake screaming about the same vision. A city. Impossible architecture. Towers that stretch into dimensions perception cannot follow. Streets paved with substance that is simultaneously solid and liquid and something else entirely. At the city's center, a temple, and in the temple something vast beyond measuring, sleeping, dreaming, and in its dreams reality is merely a suggestion. The Adeptus Astra Telepathica attempts to quarantine affected astropaths. Within days 90% of their astropathic choir reports the same dreams. This is not infection, this is revelation. The Grey Knights are humanity's ultimate weapon against chaos. Incorruptible space marines forged in secrecy to combat demonic threats. Their gene seed is pure, and their faith unbreakable, their minds shielded by the Emperor's own psychic warp. When 3 Grey Knight Brotherhoods deploy to investigate the silent sectors, they do so with absolute confidence. They have banished greater daemons, they have closed warp rifts, they have stood in the eye of terror, and remain pure. Priests pass with no contact. When their ships finally emerge, and they broadcast a single message on all Imperial frequencies before initiating reactor overload. The message is 3 words repeated in every language the Imperium recognizes. We cannot fight geometry. The explosions are visible from 3 systems away. The Grey Knights chose death over reporting what they found. This is not chaos. Chaos corrupts. It offers power, pleasure, knowledge, acceptance. It preys on weakness and desire. What now spreads across Imperial space offers nothing. It does not corrupt minds. It replaces them. Entire populations on border worlds wake one morning thinking in patterns that human neurology should not support. They continue their lives. They work, they speak, but something fundamental has shifted. When Inquisitors investigate, they find populations that pass every test for chaos taint. No mutations, no heresy, no daemon worship. But when you look in their eyes, you see awareness of something vast. They have perceived truth that should not be perceivable, and that perception has fundamentally rewritten what they are. They are not corrupted humans. They are something wearing humanity as a mask, and the mask is starting to slip. You are Magos Secundus Vrul, and your augmetic implants are showing you data that should not exist. For 40 years you have served the Omniscio board monitoring station Typhon 70, analyzing warp fluctuations at the edge of the Ghoul Star. Your cogitators process 17,000 data points per second. Your logic engines have catalogued every known form of chaos corruption. You have witnessed daemon incursions, warp storms, reality tears, and that vomit horror. Your mind is 70% machine, emotion is weakness, logic is strength. But today your organic components are screaming, not in fear, in recognition. Your meat brain has perceived something your augmetics cannot process, something that makes your 300 terabytes of stored knowledge feel like ignorance.
The dream started 14 days ago. This should be impossible. You removed your sleep cycle requirements 20 years ago through neural augmentation. Yet now you experience something that resembles sleep but functions differently. You close your optical sensors for routine maintenance and you are elsewhere, standing in corridors that your mathematical processors cannot map. The angles are wrong. Not incorrect, wrong. They connect spaces that should not touch. Parallel lines intersect. Perpendicular surfaces curve into each other without transition. Your augmetic measuring instruments malfunction when directed at these geometries. They return error codes that should not exist in binary. Numbers that fall between 0 and 1.
Calculations that resolve to answers your logic engines classify as true but unprovable. Your station monitors 17 other magos across the sector. All report similar experiences. Magos Tertius Crane, whose biological components were reduced to 8% through holy augmentation, suffered complete system failure 3 days ago. Her servitors found her in the observation sanctum, organic eye wide open, staring at empty space. Her augmetics functioned perfectly. Heart rate steady, neural activity normal. But her consciousness had departed, not death. Displacement. When her remains were examined, her biological brain tissue showed unusual growth, new neural pathways forming patterns that resembled circuit diagrams for technology that does not exist. Her last log thought preserved in her cortical backup: it is not mathematics. It is something mathematics describes poorly. The civilian population of Typhon 7 begins exhibiting collective behavioral anomalies. The station houses 12,000 souls workers, administrators, families assigned to support the monitoring mission. For generations they have lived normal lives despite the station's proximity to warp-active regions. They pray to the Emperor, they work their shifts, they raise children in the Emperor's light. But now they gather in the lower cargo bays during off-hours, not speaking, not performing rituals, simply standing, facing the same direction, toward a section of empty space that your sensors confirm contains nothing. When you dispatch enforcers to disperse them, the crowds comply without resistance. They return to their quarters, resume their duties, but 8 hours later they gather again. Same location, same orientation, same vacant stairs. You attempt communication. Your Vox synthesizer projects standard Imperial Gothic queries. The crowds do not respond, not ignoring you, genuinely not perceiving the question as relevant. You escalate to neural probing. Select 6 individuals across different demographics: worker, administrator, child, elderly, male, female. All show identical neural activity patterns. Their brainwaves synchronize with precision your instruments classify as impossible without technological augmentation. You analyze the pattern. It is not random. It is not chaotic. It resembles a language. Information encoded in the firing patterns of human neurons. When you attempt to decode it, your cogitators shut down to prevent cascade failure. The data is too dense, too complex. Trying to process it is like trying to contain an ocean in a teacup. On the 15th day you witness the first transformation, not physical mutation, not chaos-spawned corruption, something worse. A maintenance worker named Hadrian stops mid-task and speaks. His voice sounds normal but his words do not translate. Not High Gothic, not Low Gothic, not any human language in your databases spanning 40,000 years of recorded history. The sounds hurt to hear, not loud, structurally wrong. Your audio processors attempt to filter them and begin overheating. Other workers turn to listen. They nod. They understand. Within an hour 300 station personnel speak this language fluently. They conduct their duties. They follow protocols. But they converse in tongues that make augmetic translation matrices crash.
This is not chaos possession. Possessed humans become violent, erratic, corrupted. These people remain calm, efficient, functional. They have simply become something else while maintaining human form. You seal yourself in the command sanctum and compile a report for the Adeptus Mechanicus. Your logical processes attempt to categorize what you have witnessed. Hypothesis 1: unknown Xenos infiltration. Rejected. No biological signatures detected. Hypothesis 2: novel chaos corruption. Rejected. No warp taint measurable. Hypothesis 3: technological mind control. Rejected. No artificial signals detected. You are forced to propose Hypothesis 4: exposure to information that fundamentally rewrites human cognitive architecture. Not disease, not corruption. Evolution forced through perception. You see something. You understand something. And that understanding changes what you are at a level deeper than genetics or spirit. The Mechanicus has no protocols for this. The Imperium has no defense against this. Your final act before evacuating the station is reviewing historical records. The Ghoul Stars region has legends, tales the Imperium dismissed as superstition. Stories of explorers who ventured too far and returned changed. Speaking of cities beneath stars that do not exist. Of angles in space where reality pools like liquid. Of things that sleep between dimensions, dreaming dreams that bleed into real space when perceived. You always classified these as cautionary tales, warnings against warp exposure. But now, watching your station's population transform through mere awareness, you understand these were not warnings about chaos. They were quarantine notices, markers placed by ancient civilizations that encountered this and chose to wall it off rather than fight it. The Ghoul Stars earned their name not because of what died here, but because of what refuses to stay dead. And you have just awoken it by observing it too closely. The administratum processes 40 billion reports per day across the Imperium. Most are routine, tithe assessments, production quotas, casualty tallies from countless wars. The bureaucratic machine of humanity grinds forward with patience that outlives star systems. But in the 17th archive level beneath the Terran Palace of Ministers, 3 adepts notice a pattern. 17 sectors reporting identical anomalies within a 6-week window. Communications disruption, population behavioral changes, navigator difficulties. Separately, these are unremarkable. The Imperium is vast. Strange things happen constantly. Together they form a shape, a progression, not random chaos, deliberate expansion. Something is spreading through imperial space with geometric precision, moving from sector to sector along routes that do not follow warp currents or trade lanes, following something else entirely. Hive world Cratylus 9 houses 18 billion souls stacked in towers that pierce the clouds. For 8,000 years this world has tithed soldiers to the Imperial Guard. 17 regiments currently serve across the segmentum solar. The planet is stable, productive, loyal.
Then the dreams begin. Not scattered nightmares affecting individuals. Synchronized visions experienced by 3 billion people simultaneously. They wake at the same moment. 0347 local time. They describe the same impossible city, the same geometry that hurts to remember, the same presence vast beyond measuring. The planetary governor declares martial law. The Adeptus Arbites enforce curfew. The ecclesiarchy leads prayer vigils in every district. None of it matters.
Oh.
The dreams return the next night, and the night after. Within 2 weeks, half the population stops attending to duties. They gather in public square, thousands standing in patterns that resemble mathematical equations written in human bodies. The Imperial Navy dispatches 3 battle cruisers to investigate. Admiral Cortez has served 40 years. She has fought chaos fleets. She has weathered warp storms. She understands that space is dangerous and full of horrors. But when her fleet translates into craterless night orbit, every sensor on every ship fails simultaneously. Not destroyed, as if something has decided technology is no longer permitted to function. Her crew reports visual confirmation of the planet below. The hive cities remain standing. No orbital bombardment. No invasion fleet. No visible threat. But something is wrong with the light. It bends around the planet at angles that make her navigator vomit blood when attempting to chart course. The planet's star still burns. The planet still rotates. But the space around it has become thick. Reality pooling like honey around a gravity well that should not exist. Admiral Cortez orders planetary landing. The first dropship descends through atmosphere without incident. It touches down in the primary hive's landing plaza. The pilot reports all systems functional. Breathable atmosphere. No hostile contacts. Then he exits his craft and sees the people. Millions of them. Standing in the streets. In perfect grids. Not statues. Living humans, breathing, blinking, but motionless, facing toward the hive's center where the planetary governor's palace rises like a spear toward the sky. The pilot approaches the nearest citizen, an elderly woman. He speaks to her in standard Gothic. She does not respond. He touches her shoulder. She turns her head with mechanical precision, looks at him, and speaks in that language. The one that should not exist. The one that makes his combat recorder's audio systems overheat and fail. The pilot returns to his craft and orders immediate extraction. As his dropship lifts off, he witnesses something through the viewport that will haunt him until his execution 3 weeks later. The people below begin to move. Not walking, flowing, as if 18 billion individuals have become a single organism. They converge on the planetary governor's palace. Not attacking, not rioting, simply gathering with purpose that transcends individual will. The palace, a structure that has stood for 8 millennia, begins to change. Not destroyed, restructured. Its Gothic architecture remains, but something new grows through it. Angles that should not connect. Surfaces that curve through dimensions the pilot's eyes cannot follow. The palace becomes something else. A doorway, an anchor, a point where reality has agreed to allow something through. The Inquisition dispatches Order Hereticus agents to quarantine Craterless Night. Inquisitor Viara has purged 17 worlds of chaos taint. She understands corruption. She knows how to identify heresy and cleanse it with fire. But when her retinue arrives in system, they find Admiral Cortez's fleet still in orbit, still functional, still crewed. But when she hails the flagship, the response comes in that language. The crew has not been killed. They have been converted.
18,000 Imperial Navy personnel speaking in harmonized patterns that make Voxcasters spark and fail. Inquisitor Viara makes the hardest decision of her career. She orders her ship to fire. Not on the planet. On Admiral Cortez's fleet. 3 Imperial battle cruisers destroyed by Imperial weapons because their crews have become something that wears Imperial uniforms but thinks in angles humanity was never meant to perceive. The destruction of the fleet accomplishes nothing. The phenomenon continues to spread. 7 more worlds report synchronized dreaming within the month. Navigators across 4 sectors refuse to chart courses through regions where the warp feels hollow. Astropaths begin self-terminating. Rather than relay messages they receive from affected zones. The messages are not threats. Not demands. Not communication as humanity understands it. They are equations. Mathematical proofs written in human suffering. Descriptions of geometries that when understood fundamentally alter the understander. The Imperium has faced extinction before. The Horus heresy nearly destroyed it. Chaos invasions threaten it constantly. Tyranid hive fleets devour entire sectors. But those threats can be fought. This cannot be fought because fighting requires comprehension, and comprehension is the weapon being used against humanity. Deep in the bowels of the Terran Palace, those 3 adepts continue their analysis. They map the spread. They track the progression. And they realize with growing horror that this is not random. This is not invasion. This is awakening. Something vast has been sleeping for so long that entire civilizations rose and fell in the silence of its dreams. The Eldar at their height knew of it and built their empire carefully around it. The Necrons encountered it before entering their great sleep and chose to slumber rather than remain awake in a universe where it stirred. The Old Ones in their infinite wisdom seeded the galaxy with life but avoided certain regions, quarantine zones marked in genetic code and psychic resonance. The Imperium, in its ignorance and its desperate need to expand and survive, has built colonies and forged worlds and hive cities directly on top of those ancient warnings. And now something older than chaos, patient beyond mortal comprehension, has noticed that its silence has been disturbed. You are Sister Palatine Ashara of the Order of the Bloody Rose. For 30 years you have fought in the Emperor's name. You have burned heretics. You have purged mutants. You have stood against demon princes and emerged victorious through faith alone. You are a sister of battle. Doubt is heresy. Fear is weakness. The Emperor protects those who serve with absolute conviction. But today, kneeling in the chapel of your convent fortress on the shrine world of Ophelia 7th, you feel something you have never experienced before. Not doubt, not fear, absence. The Emperor's presence, that warm golden light that has sustained you through decades of warfare, flickers. Not gone, distant, as if his attention has turned elsewhere, as if something has entered the galaxy that even the master of mankind must regard with caution. Your sisters gather for evening prayers. 3,000 voices raised in hymns that have echoed through this chapel for 6 millennia. The words are the same, the faith is unchanged, but the resonance feels hollow, like singing into a void that absorbs sound without reflecting it.
Back. Canoness Miria leads the devotions. Her voice remains strong, her conviction unshaken, but when she opens her eyes after the final benediction, You see something in her expression that chills you more than any daemon ever could. Uncertainty. She has communed with the Emperor's light since her elevation to canoness. She has felt his presence guide her blade through countless battles. Tonight she felt nothing, not his absence, his distraction, as if the God Emperor mankind has turned his gaze towards something more pressing than the prayers of his faithful daughters. The Astronomicon still burns. The great psychic lighthouse that guides ships through the warp continues its function. 10,000 psychers sacrifice themselves daily to maintain its light, but navigators across the Imperium report changes. The beacon's light, once steady and pure, now wavers, not weakening, shifting, as if the Emperor's attention divides between maintaining humanity's lifeline and observing something else, something that even his infinite consciousness must strain to comprehend. The Master of Mankind has sat upon the golden throne for 10,000 years. He has held the Imperium together through will alone. He has fought chaos in the warp while guiding humanity in the Materium. But now, for the first time since his internment, his children sense his focus elsewhere, and that terrifies them more than any invasion ever could. In the eye of terror,
Abaddon the Despoiler
gathers his chaos fleets for the 13th Black Crusade. He has waited centuries for this moment, the Imperium weakened by constant war, the Cadian Gate vulnerable, victory within his grasp, but his demonically enhanced senses detect something wrong. The warp, always turbulent and violent within the eye, has grown quiet in certain regions, not peaceful, hollow. His patron deity, the War Master's chosen god, remains silent when called, not refusing, unable, as if even the chaos gods have turned their attention towards something more important than the galaxy's endless war. Abaddon has served chaos for 10,000 years. He has witnessed daemon worlds rise and fall. He has commanded legions that defy reality itself. But he has never seen the dark gods distracted, never seen them afraid, until now. On Daemon World Sycharis, the word-bearers conduct their blasphemous rituals. Dark Apostle Erebus, first to fall to chaos, leads prayers to the ruinous powers. The responses come slower than usual. The daemons summoned arrive weakened, confused. They speak of regions in the warp where their kind cannot exist, not banished, unmade, spaces where the rules that give daemons form and function simply do not apply, where emotion holds no power, where belief carries no weight. The word-bearers have worshipped chaos undivided for 10 millennia. They have never questioned the supremacy of their gods. But now, watching their summoned daemons fade like smoke in wind, they begin to understand that the Chaos Gods are not supreme. They are merely loud, and something that has remained silent for eons has begun to speak. Sinchit, God of change and schemes, perceives futures that branch infinitely. Every possibility, every outcome, every thread of fate woven across time, but certain futures now terminate in darkness that even the architect of fate cannot pierce, not because those futures do not exist, because they exist in forms his divinity cannot process. Nurgle, god of decay and entropy, feels the cycle of death and rebirth that sustains him falter. There are deaths now that do not feed him, lives that end but do not transition. They simply stop in ways that violate the natural order he embodies. Khorne, god of war and bloodshed, rages at battles that produce no wrath to sustain him. Combatants die without anger, without fury,
without the emotional resonance that feeds his throne. Slanesh, youngest of the gods, finds entire populations that cease to feel anything, not numb, transformed into something that experiences existence through senses the Prince of Pleasure cannot comprehend or corrupt. The Chaos Gods are not allies. They war with each other constantly. They compete for souls and worship, but for the first time in their existence they share a common reaction. They retreat, not from fear exactly. Gods do not fear in ways mortals understand, but from calculation, from recognition that what now stirs in the galaxy's depths operates on principles that predate emotion itself. The Chaos Gods are reflections of sentient thought. They exist because thinking beings exist, but what now awakens existed before thought, before emotion, before consciousness evolved to the point where it could birth gods from its collective nightmares. The ruinous powers are 60 million years old at most. What they now perceive has been waiting since the universe learned to support matter, since physics stabilized enough to allow dimensions beyond the fundamental four, since reality developed sufficient complexity to hide things between its layers. On the world of Sortiarius Magnus, the Red communes with Saintchit, the Crimson King, once loyal son of the Emperor, now Daemon Primarch devoted to chaos. He seeks knowledge of what troubles his patron god. Sin shows him visions, not prophecies, memories, images from before the war in heaven, before the Old Ones in Necrontyr waged war across the stars, before the Khatonate suns and harvested life, a younger galaxy, emptier, quieter, and in that silence things that had no business existing in three-dimensional space made their homes. They did not conquer, did not communicate, they simply were, patient beyond measuring, content to wait in spaces between dimensions until the galaxy matured enough to properly perceive them. Magnus the Red, who sought ultimate knowledge and paid the ultimate price, looks upon these visions and understands why the Emperor forbade certain inquiries. Some knowledge cannot be safely known. Some truths destroy the minds that comprehend them, and what now awakens is truth itself, ancient, inevitable, uncaring whether humanity survives its revelation. You are Navigator Primus Heliana, head of House Belisarius, one of the three founding navigator houses of Terra. Your bloodline has guided ships through the warp since before the Imperium existed. Your ancestors navigated the Age of Strife. They charted courses through daemon-infested Immaterium when humanity fractured and nearly died. Your third eye has witnessed 10,000 years of accumulated horrors compressed into a lifetime of service. But nothing in your house's extensive records, nothing in the secret archives maintained since Old Night, prepared you for what you perceive today. The warp is not empty, it is not silent, it is rewriting itself, like a manuscript being erased and overwritten with text in a language reality itself struggles to parse.
The summons came from the Noctis Labyrinthus, a region of space bordering the halo stars where real space and warp grow thin. 3 navigator houses reported identical phenomena, entire warp routes collapsing, not destroyed by storms, replaced. The chaotic currents that navigators use to traverse between stars have straightened, organized, structured into corridors that follow geometric principles no human mathematician has ever described. Your house's best theorists attempt to map these new routes. Their calculations break down, not because the math is wrong, but because it requires dimensions that human cognition cannot visualize. 17 dimensions, 23. Numbers that should not exist in any physical framework, yet these corridors exist. Stable, perfect, waiting. Imperial Navy Command orders an investigation. Battle barge Eternal Vigilance, a ship with 4 millennia of service history, volunteers to enter one of these new corridors. The navigator aboard is your niece, talented, brave, faithful. She has guided this vessel through warp storms that would have broken lesser minds. Her last transmission arrives 17 minutes after translation. 7 words that House Belisarius will spend centuries trying to understand. It is not space, it is breathing. Then silence. Not Vox failure, not warp interference. The ship exists. Scans confirm its presence in real space coordinates that should place it 3 light years from its entry point. But when recovery vessels arrive, they find the Eternal Vigilance intact but fundamentally changed. Its hull maintains proper shape, but the metal has been restructured at molecular level, rearranged into crystalline patterns that hurt to observe. A geometry lesson written in imperial steel. The crew still lives. All 8,000 souls aboard. They perform their duties. They respond to hails, but they speak in that language now. The one that crashes translation matrices and makes human ears bleed. When boarding teams attempt entry, the crew does not resist, does not attack. Simply looks at the newcomers with expressions that convey something worse than hostility, pity, as if they have perceived truth so vast that they feel sorrow for those still trapped in ignorance. The boarding teams report that the ship's interior has changed. Corridors connect in ways that violate 3-dimensional geometry. Walk forward and arrive behind where you started. Turn left and move through spaces that should not fit inside the hull's dimensions. The ship has become impossible while remaining entirely functional. The phenomenon accelerates. Across 17 sectors, populations stop screaming. This detail terrifies Imperial observers more than any previous development. When chaos corrupts a world, there is violence, bloodshed, the sounds of civilization dying, but the affected regions now fall silent, not dead, transformed. Astropathic scans show population centers still active, cities still lit, industry still functioning. But when you listen to Vox transmissions from these worlds, you hear that language. Billions of voices speaking in perfect synchronization, reciting equations that describe realities humanity was never meant to inhabit. They are not suffering. They are not enslaved. They have been elevated to a state of existence that makes baseline humanity look like insects trying to understand poetry. On the cardinal world of Dimamar, Saint Celestin manifests. A living saint and imperial hero resurrected by the Emperor's will to fight in his name. She has appeared during humanity's darkest hours for 10,000 years. Her presence inspires faith. Her flaming sword banishes demons. She is proof that the Emperor protects. But today she manifests not to fight but to warn. She appears before the ecclesiarchal council and speaks with a voice that trembles for the first time in recorded history. The Emperor has seen what stirs. He cannot stop it, not because he lacks power but because stopping it would require him to leave the Golden Throne. And if he leaves the throne, the Astronomicon fails. The webway breach beneath the Imperial Palace reopens. Humanity dies in darkness. He can watch, he can witness, but he cannot intervene.
Saint Celestine delivers this message and weeps, tears of blood running down her porcelain face. Then she vanishes, not recalled to his side, fleeing, because even saints can recognize when presence becomes complicity. The Inquisition convenes an emergency conclave. Representatives from all three major ordos gather in secret beneath Titan, the moon of the Grey Knights. They possess reports from 200 worlds, testimony from 17 daemon princes, data from the Astronomicon station itself. The picture forms slowly but inexorably. What humanity faces is not invasion, not corruption, not war. It is contact. First contact with something that has existed since before complex life evolved, before consciousness developed to the point where it could worship or fear or hate. An intelligence so alien that human minds cannot process its existence without being fundamentally altered, not destroyed, upgraded, rewritten, made compatible with a form of existence that transcends three-dimensional materium and four-dimensional immaterium. A fifth state, a place where chaos holds no dominion because the concepts that birth chaos simply do not apply. The conclave reaches consensus within 3 hours, unprecedented speed for an inquisitorial gathering. They issue Ordo Omega Protocol, reserved for extinction-level threats, but the protocol's usual prescriptions fail here. You cannot quarantine something that spreads through awareness. You cannot purge populations that have transformed without violence. You cannot fight geometry. The Inquisition, humanity's ultimate defense against existential threats, admits defeat, not through lack of courage or faith, but through recognition that some things exist beyond the scope of human response. They classify all related data as vermilion-level secrecy, knowledge so dangerous that even inquisitors cannot access it without special dispensation. Then they do something the Inquisition has never done in 10,000 years of service. They recommend retreat, abandon the affected sectors, quarantine them with automated defenses, and pray that whatever has awakened decides that 17 sectors are sufficient, that it will go back to sleep, that humanity's ignorance maintained through desperate censorship might protect the species where faith and firepower have failed. You are Guardsman Tomic of the Cadian 8th Regiment. Your world died when the 13th Black Crusade shattered the Cadian Gate. You survived. You fought. You were shipped to a new war zone because the Imperium has infinite wars and finite soldiers. Today you stand garrison duty on Agri-World Harvest and Prime. Boring work, no enemies, no glory, just watching farmers work fields that feed 3 hive worlds. You should be grateful. Most guardsmen die screaming. You get to die of old age if you are lucky. But 3 days ago the farmers stopped talking. Not silent exactly. They still coordinate. They still harvest. But when you listen to their conversations, the words make your head hurt. Not loud, structurally wrong, like trying to hear
colors or taste sounds. Your sergeant orders you to ignore it. Keep watch. Report anomalies. Do not engage. Standard protocol when dealing with possible contamination. The silence spreads from the agricultural zones to the small settlements, then to the regional capital. Population 7 million. Built around a massive grain processing facility that runs day and night. The facility continues operating. The grain still processes. The shipments still launch on schedule. But when you access surveillance feeds, you see something that makes your hands shake. The workers move in perfect synchronization. Thousands of people acting as one organism. Not marching, not drilling. Simply existing with coordination that no human group should possess without augmetics or hive mind influence. Your company commander requests inquisitorial support. The response arrives within hours. 3 words. Abandon the world. No explanation. No evacuation orders for the population. Just leave. Immediately. Your regiment has 40 years of service history. You have never retreated without orders to save civilians. Until today, the evacuation proceeds with military efficiency. 50,000 guardsmen board transports within 6 hours. You look back at Harvest and Prime through the viewport as your ship translates to orbit. The planet looks peaceful. Green fields. Blue skies. Cities lit up like jewels. No fires. No destruction. No visible threat. But your Vox operator picks up a transmission from the surface. Not a distress call. Not a request for extraction. Just that language. The entire population speaking as one voice. 7 million people synchronized with precision that makes your stomach turn. Your transport's captain cuts the feed. Orders all Vox channels locked. But you heard enough. Whatever happened to Harvest and Prime did not kill the people. It changed them into something that still looks human but thinks in ways that make human thought look like static noise. Across the Imperium, similar evacuations occur. 23 agri-worlds, 16 mining colonies, 7 forge worlds, entire planets abandoned with populations intact. The administratum struggles to process this. Abandoning resources goes against 10,000 years of imperial doctrine. Every world matters, every citizen serves. But the alternative is worse. The Inquisition has data from early contact attempts, rescue missions sent to retrieve populations from affected worlds. The rescue teams return transformed, not corrupted, not possessed, changed at fundamental level. They speak that language. They move within human coordination. And worst of all, they try to help. They attempt to explain what they have perceived, what they have become, and anyone who listens too closely begins the transformation themselves. This is not a disease you can quarantine. It is understanding you must avoid. Ignorance becomes humanity's last defense. On Necromunda, the Underhive gangers notice changes first. The lower levels of hive cities have always been lawless, brutal, Darwinian. The strong survive, the weak become corpse-starved. But in Sector Gamma 7 violence stops, not through peace, through irrelevance. The gangers who controlled that sector still exist. They still carry weapons, but they no longer fight. They stand in formations that spell out mathematical equations when viewed from above. The enforcers investigate. They find no chaos corruption, no drug contamination, no Xenos influence, just populations that have stopped caring about survival because they have perceived something that makes survival seem trivial. The enforcers seal Sector Gamma 7. Weld the entrances shut, declare it lost. Within 2 weeks, 3 more sectors fall silent. The pattern spreads through the Underhive like water flowing downhill, following paths of least resistance, seeking minds open to transformation through desperation or madness or simple curiosity. The Mechanicus attempts technological solutions. They build null field generators, devices that suppress psychic activity and warp influence. The generators function perfectly.
They create zones where no daemon can manifest, where no psyker can use their gifts, but the silence continues spreading through these null zones unaffected, because this is not warp-based, it is not psychic, it is informational, a truth that propagates through observation and understanding. You see it, you comprehend it, and comprehension rewrites your neural architecture at quantum level. The Mechanicus has no technology that blocks information itself, no filter that prevents knowledge from being known. They can shield against radiation, against corruption, against hostile code, but they cannot shield against truth, and truth they discover too late can be hostile when it originates from dimensions human minds were never designed to process. On the shrine world of Ophelia 70 Sisters of Battle maintain vigil. They pray for deliverance, they pray for strength, they pray for the Emperor's guidance. Saint Celestine's warning still echoes through their faith. The Emperor cannot intervene, but surely he can protect the faithful. Surely devotion provides some defense. Sister Palatina Shara leads daily services. Attendance remains strong. Faith remains unshaken, but she notices subtle changes. Sisters who return from patrol duty in the surrounding sectors speak differently, not heretically, more precisely. Their prayers become mathematical. Their hymns follow patterns that sound beautiful but hurt to analyze. They have not lost faith. They have gained something else, a perspective that encompasses faith while extending beyond it into territories theology cannot map. Ishara reports this to Canoness Miria. The Canoness makes the hardest decision imaginable. She orders those sisters isolated, quarantined, not for punishment, for protection of the others, because even faith cannot defend against understanding that transcends the concept of faith itself. The Emperor watches from his golden throne. 10,000 psychers burn daily to maintain his presence. His consciousness spans the galaxy. He sees everything, knows everything humanity needs him to know. But today he perceives something his vast intellect struggles to process, not because it is complex, because it is simple, fundamentally simple, reality at its most basic level, before chaos complicated it with emotion, before consciousness fragmentally it with perspective, before time gave it sequence. He sees what his Imperium faces and he understands why the old ones fled, why the Necrons slept, why the Eldar built their empire around vast empty regions of space they called cursed. This is not an enemy, this is revelation, the universe showing its true face, and that face is vast, ancient, alien beyond any Xenos humanity has fought. It does not hate humanity. It does not notice humanity. It simply is, and existence near it requires transformation or extinction. The Emperor makes his choice. He tightens his grip on the Astronomicon, pulls his attention inward, focuses on keeping the light burning, because if the light fails, humanity dies in darkness. And at least in darkness they cannot see what waits in the light.
You are Farseer Eldorath of Craftworld Elthway. Your people have existed for 60 million years. You have seen empires rise and fall. You watched the war in heaven tear the galaxy apart. You survived the birth of Slanesh when your civilization's excess birthed a god that devoured 90% of your species. You have walked the webway's infinite corridors. You have consulted the Black Library where forbidden knowledge sleeps under careful guard. But today you consult something older, the Infinity Circuit, the collected souls of every Eldar who died and joined with your Craftworld psychic matrix. billions of consciousnesses, thousands of generations, and among them a few who remember, who lived before the fall, before Slaanesh, before your people became desperate refugees fleeing their own creation. They remember what the ancient Eldar avoided, what they built their empire carefully around, what they called in the old tongue Shai-Hulud of the deep angles, the dreaming geometry. The human Imperium calls them primitives, ignorant children playing with powers they do not understand. But humanity is 10,000 years old at most. Your species measured time in epochs when Terra was still ice and rock. You know things humanity has not yet learned to fear, and chief among those things is this: the galaxy is old, older than the Ket-10, older than the old ones. Before there was life, before there was warp, before dimensions separated cleanly into matter and energy, there were structures, mathematical frameworks, the bones of reality itself, and in those bones things made their homes, not alive, not dead, simply existing in states that consciousness would eventually evolve to call impossible. Your ancestors knew of them, marked their territories, built the webway specifically to avoid spaces where those entities slept. The humans, in their desperate expansion, ignored warnings they could not read, and now something sleeps no longer. You gather the Seer Council, 13 Farseers who have devoted centuries to divination and prophecy. Together you cast your consciousness forward, seeking futures, seeking paths where the Eldar survive what comes. The futures branch and split as they always do, infinite possibilities, infinite outcomes, but certain branches terminate in patterns you have never seen before. Not darkness, not death, transformation, futures where the Eldar exist but no longer as Eldar, where your consciousness continues but in forms that make your current existence look primitive. You recoil from these visions. Your people have fought extinction for 10,000 years. You have maintained your identity through discipline and sacrifice. You will not surrender it now, but the visions persist, and in them a terrible implication. What approaches is not destruction, it is evolution, forced, inevitable, universal, a pruning of reality's garden, a correction to patterns that have grown chaotic, the universe organizing itself, and organisms either adapt or become extinct. On Komareth, the Dark Eldar city hidden in the webway Archon Vec convenes the Cabal leadership. The Dark Eldar do not fear as their craft world cousins do. They embrace darkness. They feed on suffering. They raid real space for slaves and souls to sustain themselves against Slaanesh's eternal hunger. But even they notice changes. Their raids into affected Imperial sectors return strange. Slaves that do not scream. Captives that do not break under torture. Not through courage, through irrelevance. Pain ceases to matter to them. Pleasure holds no appeal. The Dark Eldar's entire economy depends on harvested suffering, but you cannot harvest suffering from beings that have transcended the concept of suffering. Archon Vect, who has ruled Komareth for 5,000 years through cunning and cruelty, makes a rare admission. He does not understand what humanity has awakened, and for a Dark Eldar, ignorance is death. The Harlequins travel the webway performing their endless dance, part warriors, part artists, part keepers of history. They alone remember the fall in perfect detail. They preserve the story of how Slaanesh was born, how an empire's excess became a god's hunger.
but their oldest members remember stories older than the fall, legends passed down from the time before Eldar civilization reached its height, stories of the younger. The old ones called them something different. The Necrontyr avoided regions of space where they were said to dwell. These stories speak of entities that exist in mathematics rather than matter, that dream in dimensions mortal minds cannot visualize, that wait in spaces between spaces until the galaxy matures enough to properly perceive them. The Harlequins dismissed these as metaphors, cautionary tales about the dangers of overreaching. But now, watching human sectors fall silent through mere perception, they understand these were not metaphors. They were memories, records of first contact with something the ancient Eldar encountered and chose to forget rather than engage. The avatar of Cain stirs in Craftworld Bealtan's central shrine. The avatar is a fragment of the Eldar god of war, awakened during times of great conflict, manifested to lead Eldar warriors into battle against impossible odds. But today it awakens without summoning. It breaks free from its shrine without ritual. It stands in the Craftworld's central plaza and speaks with a voice that has not been heard since the war in heaven. 3 words in ancient Eldar. They are awake. The Eldar who witnessed this fall to their knees, not in worship, in recognition. Even their gods remember. Even Cain, mighty god of murder and war, encountered these entities in ages past, and even a god of war knows there are some things you do not fight, some things you bow before and hope they pass you by. The avatar returns to its shrine, seals itself within, will not emerge again no matter what rituals the Eldar perform. Because gods understand what mortals are only beginning to learn. There are forces in the universe that make gods look fragile. You return to your meditation chamber aboard Ulthway. You have lived 4 centuries. You have seen horrors that would shatter human minds. You have fought daemons. You have walked paths where reality fractures. You have gazed into the eye of terror and maintained your sanity through discipline and foresight. But today you do something you have never done. You weep, not for yourself, not for your craft world, for the galaxy itself, because you have consulted the oldest souls in your infinity circuit, the ones who lived before the fall, before the age of strife. Before humans crawled from their cradle world, and they told you what the ancient Eldar knew, what they built their civilization to avoid acknowledging. The galaxy is not empty space punctuated by stars and worlds. It is a garden, and gardens have gardeners, vast, patient, alien beyond comprehension. They do not tend this garden out of love or duty. They tend it because that is what gardeners do, and when weeds grow too wild, when patterns become too chaotic, gardeners prune. What humanity calls gods, what Eldar call powers, what chaos calls strength, the gardeners call overgrowth, and pruning has begun. You send a message to the Imperium, through secret channels maintained since before the heresy. Channels the Eldar used to communicate with humanity when mutual survival demanded
Cooperation. The message is simple. We remember them. We survived by forgetting. You cannot fight them. You cannot reason with them. You can only hope they decide you are too small to matter. The message transmits across the galaxy, reaches Imperial command structures on Terra, arrives at the Inquisition's highest levels, and is immediately classified at Vermilion-level secrecy. Because the Imperium has already reached the same conclusion, The Eldar, ancient and wise, survived by maintaining ignorance, by building their empire around vast empty zones, by forgetting what their ancestors knew. And now humanity must choose: fight extinction through understanding, or survive through carefully maintained ignorance. Knowledge has always been humanity's weapon, but today ignorance becomes their shield, and the Imperium, built on faith and dogma, discovers that its greatest strength was always its refusal to question, its dedication to enforced stupidity, because in a universe where truth can kill, ignorance is not weakness, it is armor. You are Lord Inquisitor Hachiman, serving the Ordo Hereticus for 170 years. You have burned worlds, you have executed billions, you have made choices that would break lesser minds because someone must make the hard decisions. Someone must do what is necessary for humanity's survival. Today you stand before the High Lords of Terra in the Senatorium Imperialis, 12 of the most powerful humans alive. They govern an empire of 1,000,000 worlds. They command armies that dwarf ancient Terra's entire population. They make decisions that affect trillions. And today they ask you a question no Inquisitor has ever been asked before. How do we survive by not knowing? Because the solution you propose violates 10,000 years of Imperial doctrine. It violates everything the Imperium claims to stand for. But it is the only solution that might work. Your proposal is simple in concept, horrifying in execution. Establish a quarantine zone around the affected sectors, not to contain what is there, but to contain knowledge of what is there. Enforce absolute information blackout. Any ship that enters the zone must be destroyed upon exit. Any survivor who witnesses the affected regions must be terminated. Any data, any records, any testimony, erased, purged, burned. You propose weaponized ignorance on a scale the Imperium has never attempted, not because the truth is corrupting, but because the truth is contagious. Understanding spreads like disease. Perception alters the perceiver. The only way to stop it is to prevent perception entirely. Shoot down your own ships. Execute your own soldiers. Condemn entire worlds to isolation, not for heresy, for seeing too clearly. The High Lords listen in silence. When you finish, 3 of them vote to execute you for cowardice. The other 9 vote to implement your plan immediately. The Mechanicus receives orders that violate their most sacred protocols, purge archives, erase centuries of accumulated knowledge. The cult Mechanicus exists to preserve information, to maintain the technological legacy of humanity's golden age. Every scrap of data is holy, every record sacred, but today they burn terabytes of research, studies on the affected sectors, analysis of the transformation phenomenon, mathematical models attempting to explain the impossible geometries, all of it classified as viral information, hazardous, not because it is wrong but because it is too right, because understanding it begins the transformation. Senior Magi weep as they watch knowledge burn. They are murdering their own purpose, betraying the omniscience mandate, but they do it because even the Mechanicus understands that some knowledge carries an infection vector, that information itself can be a weapon, and sometimes the only defense is willful ignorance maintained through violent censorship. The ecclesiarchy faces a different crisis. Faith requires certainty.
The Imperial Creed teaches that the Emperor protects, that humanity stands supreme in his light, that all Xenos and heretics and daemons can be defeated through faith and fire. But how do you maintain faith when your God admits he cannot help? When Saint Celestine herself flees in tears? When the Emperor focuses his attention inward and leaves his children to face something alone? Cardinal Bucharest, leader of the ecclesiarchy, makes a choice. He lies. He declares that the affected sectors have been cleansed, that the Emperor's light has banished the threat, that imperial forces achieved victory. The lie spreads through every church, every shrine, every missionary. Trillions of faithful believe it, because faith requires certainty, and certainty requires lies when truth would shatter belief. The Cardinal kneels before the golden throne and begs forgiveness for this deception. The Emperor does not respond, but the Astronomicon continues burning, and silence in this case feels like permission. Across the Imperium, populations notice the changes. Entire sectors dropped from official maps, trade routes that terminate in empty space, regiments that deploy and never report back, families who lose contact with relatives stationed in border regions. Questions multiply, conspiracy theories spread, people demand answers. The Imperium responds with unprecedented brutality. Arbites round up questioners. Inquisitors purge entire communities where rumors spread. Anyone who asks about the silent sectors disappears. Not executed. Worse, mind-whipped. Their memories erased. Their identities rebuilt. They wake in new lives with no memory of what they questioned. Families receive notification that their loved ones died in service, heroically with honors. The bodies never arrive, because the bodies still walk, still breathe, but the people who inhabited those bodies have been surgically removed. This is not justice. This is not righteousness. This is survival. And survival, humanity learns, sometimes requires you to kill your own curiosity, to lobotomize your own population, to become the monsters you once fought against. Navigator houses implement new protocols. Any navigator who perceives the wrong angles must report immediately for termination. Not investigation, not treatment. Immediate execution. The navigator gene is too valuable to waste, but a transformed navigator spreads transformation faster than baseline humans. House Belisarius loses 17% of its members in 3 months. Ancient bloodlines extinguished, not through war, through compliance with survival protocol. Navigator Primus Heliana executes her own niece. The girl who transmitted it's not space, it is breathing before her ship transformed. Heliana places the bolt pistol against her niece's temple and pulls the trigger. Then she returns to her duties, because someone must navigate. Someone must guide humanity through the dark. And that duty requires sacrifice, requires you to kill what you love, requires you to become hard enough to survive in a universe where softness is extinction. The quarantine zones solidify. 47 sectors sealed off. 200 billion souls written off as acceptable losses. Automated defense platforms destroy any ship attempting to leave.
Orbital fortresses maintain eternal vigil, not defending against invasion, defending against knowledge escaping. The populations in those sectors still live, still function, still maintain civilization, but they are beyond humanity now. transformed into something that thinks in 17 dimensions, that speaks in languages no human tongue can properly form, that experiences reality through senses baseline humans do not possess. They are not dead, not suffering. They have transcended, evolved, become something greater by certain measures, but they are no longer human, and the Imperium has decided that humanity will remain human even if maintaining that requires eternal imprisonment of those who evolved beyond it. The quarantine zones become monuments, warnings, proof that some prices are too high, some knowledge too dangerous, some truths too terrible to allow. On Terra, deep beneath the Imperial Palace, archivists seal the final records, everything related to the emergence, everything documenting the transformation, everything explaining what happened and why, locked in vaults that will not open for 10,000 years, maybe longer, protected by wards that kill anyone who attempts unauthorized access. The Imperium has decided on its official history. There was a chaos incursion. It was defeated. Millions died heroically. The Emperor protected his people. Standard narrative. Familiar story. Easy to believe because it fits established patterns. The truth locked away where it cannot infect future generations, where it cannot spread its understanding like disease. Humanity survives, but at cost. The cost of becoming exactly what the Emperor built the Imperium to fight against. A civilization maintained through ignorance, through censorship, through the violent suppression of curiosity and truth. The Imperium has become a prison where the inmates are kept safe by never knowing what lurks beyond the walls, and the terrible irony is that this might be the only way humanity survives. You are no one now. Your name was taken, your memories erased, your identity rebuilt from nothing. You wake in a Medicaid facility on a world you do not recognize. The doctors tell you that you suffered traumatic injury during naval service, that your mind required reconstruction, that you are fortunate to be alive. They give you a new name, new documents, new purpose. You accept this because you have no choice, no memory of what came before, no understanding of what you witnessed. But sometimes in the space between waking and sleep you see corridors, vast, geometric, wrong. You see angles that should not connect. You hear a language your new tongue cannot speak. And in those moments something inside you remembers, not consciously, not in ways that threaten your reconstructed identity, but deep in your neural architecture, in patterns your mind-wipe could not fully erase. The truth remains, dormant, waiting, because some knowledge cannot be truly destroyed. It can only be buried, and buried things eventually surface. 50 years pass. The Imperium continues its eternal war. New crusades launch. New worlds burn. New heroes rise and fall. The quarantine zones remain sealed. Automated defenses still destroy any ship attempting to cross the boundary. The populations within those zones continue their transformed existence. They build cities in impossible geometries. They speak languages that encode mathematical truths no baseline human can process. They do not attempt to leave, do not try to spread. They simply exist in their new state, content, complete,
Beyond the concerns that drive humanity's desperate survival, they have transcended need, transcended fear, transcended the limitations that make humanity human, and from the Imperium's perspective that makes them more dangerous than any daemon. Because you can fight daemons, you can resist corruption, but how do you fight evolution? How do you resist improvement? How do you maintain humanity when something better exists just beyond the wall? The Astronomicon continues burning. 10,000 psychers still sacrifice themselves daily. The Emperor remains entombed upon the Golden Throne, his consciousness spanning the galaxy, his will maintaining the Imperium's cohesion. But those who tend him notice changes, subtle, almost imperceptible. His dreams when perceived by attending psychers contain new elements, geometries that should not exist, angles that hurt to witness. The Emperor does not speak of what he perceives, does not share what he has come to understand, but his silence speaks volumes. He has seen what waits in the deep, he has perceived truths that even his vast intellect struggles to process, and he has made the same choice the Imperium made. Focus on survival, maintain the light, ignore what lurks beyond the light's reach, because acknowledgement is participation, and participation is transformation. The Emperor protects, but protection in this case means looking away. Chaos continues its eternal assault. The ruinous powers rage and scheme and seduce and corrupt. But in certain regions of the warp, even daemons refuse to tread. Zones where the immaterium grows still, where emotional resonance fails to propagate, where the rules that give chaos form simply cease to apply. The chaos gods do not expand into these regions, do not claim them, do not even acknowledge their existence, because gods understand limits, understand that dominion requires compatible reality, and these regions have become incompatible with existence as the warp defines it. The great game continues. Khorne and Nurgle battle, Siege and Slaanesh scheme, but they play their game on a smaller board now, confined to regions where their nature remains relevant, where emotion still births power, where consciousness still operates in patterns they can manipulate and consume. They are not defeated. They are contained, not by force, by irrelevance. Navigator Heliana stands on the observation deck of her house's flagship. She is old now, 3 centuries of service. She has guided ships through the warp longer than most humans live. She has witnessed the Imperium's greatest triumphs and darkest failures. She executed her own niece 50 years ago. That act haunts her still. Sometimes she wonders if it was necessary, if the girl could have been saved, if there was another way. But then she opens her third eye and looks at the warp, and she sees those corridors still there, still waiting, still patient beyond measuring, and she knows there was no other way. The girl had to die. The knowledge had to be contained, because the alternative was not death, it was transformation. And transformation, however peaceful it appeared, was extinction for humanity as humanity understands itself. She will carry this guilt to her grave, will die knowing she murdered family to maintain ignorance. But she will die human, and in the galaxy that now exists, that is victory enough. The Eldar watch from their craft worlds. They survived the emergence as they survived the fall, by maintaining careful distance, by refusing to engage, by practicing the same willful ignorance they perfected over millions of years. Farseer Eldareth lives still, though age weighs heavily.
Even on Eldar physiology, she consults the Infinity Circuit less frequently now. Some questions should not be asked. Some knowledge should not be pursued. The ancient souls remain silent on the topic of what awoke. They remember it exists. They remember it is vast. But they refuse to remember details, refuse to contemplate its nature, because contemplation is the first step toward comprehension, and comprehension is transformation. The Eldar perfected survival through selective memory, through choosing what to forget. Humanity has learned the same lesson, and in that shared understanding, the two species find unlikely kinship, both surviving by refusing to grow, by maintaining limitations that keep them small enough to escape cosmic notice. The transformed populations in the quarantine zones live their transcendent existence. They do not suffer, do not face the endless wars that consume the rest of the galaxy. They have been elevated to a state beyond conflict, beyond need, beyond the desperate survival that defines life in the 41st millennium. From certain perspectives they are blessed. They have achieved what the Emperor promised but could never deliver. Freedom from suffering through transformation rather than faith. But they are no longer human, no longer capable of the things that make humanity what it is. The rage, the hope, the stubborn refusal to accept cosmic insignificance, the desperate clinging to identity even when identity means suffering. They have traded humanity for peace, and the Imperium has decided that this trade, however beneficial it might appear, is unacceptable, because humanity without suffering is not humanity. It is something else, something better perhaps, but something that must be quarantined like disease. You die in your sleep at age 73, a unremarkable death on an unremarkable world. Your reconstructed life was simple, productive, peaceful by Imperial standards. You never remembered what you witnessed before your mind wipe, never recovered the knowledge that was taken from you. But in your final moments, as your consciousness fades, the barrier weakens, the suppressed memories surface, and for one brief instant before darkness takes you, you see, you understand, you perceive the truth that the Imperium buried inside you, the corridors, the angles, the vast presence dreaming at reality's foundation. And in that moment of clarity you realize the terrible truth. The Imperium did not save you by erasing your memory. They crippled you, kept you small and ignorant and human when you could have been something greater. The transformation was not curse, it was gift, an invitation to transcend the suffering that defines mortal existence. And they denied you that gift, forced you to remain trapped in flesh and fear and limitation. You die angry, not at what you became, but at what you were prevented from becoming. And that anger, that final human emotion, is exactly what the Imperium wanted, because anger is human, transcendence is not, and humanity will survive by remaining human even if that means remaining small. The galaxy is still there, vast, patient, full of horrors beyond counting, but humanity endures.
not through victory, through careful ignorance, through willful blindness, through the dedicated maintenance of limitations that keep them below cosmic notice. They have learned what the Eldar knew, what the Necrons discovered, what the Old Ones fled. Some games cannot be won, some enemies cannot be fought, some truths cannot be safely known. The only victory is refusing to play, and humanity, stubborn and small and determinedly ignorant, survives by never looking up, by never asking what swims in the deep, by accepting that the universe is vast and they are not. In the grim darkness of the far future there is no victory, there is only survival, and survival means staying small enough that the things which notice galaxies do not notice you. The Emperor protects, but protection means darkness, and in that darkness mercifully you cannot see the angles that would remake you. You cannot hear the language that would elevate you. You cannot perceive the truth that would free you from the prison of being human. And that blindness enforced through violence and censorship and lies is the only shield humanity has left. Not strong enough to win, but sufficient to endure. And endurance in a universe this cruel and vast and strange might be the only victory available. The war continues. The Imperium stands. The light still burns. And if that light casts shadows that hide impossible truths, if that brightness blinds humanity to revelations they cannot safely witness, then let it be so, because the alternative is not death, it is transformation, and humanity has decided it would rather die human than live as something else, even if that something else is better. Even if that something else is free, even if that something else is true. Some prices are too high, some changes too fundamental, some victories too much like surrender, and so the Imperium endures. Small, ignorant, human, surviving not through strength but through the courage to remain weak, through the dignity of refusing transcendence, through the stubborn insistence that limitation is identity and identity is worth any cost. The galaxy remains vast, the presence remains patient, the truth remains available to any who look closely enough, but humanity has closed its eyes. Humanity has chosen darkness, and in that darkness they remain themselves, forever human, forever limited, forever ignorant, forever alive.